I'm Jessica Torres, former correctional officer at Riverside Prison. These stories are raw, real, and unforgettable. If you want to see what really happens behind bars, the moments that challenge everything you think you know, subscribe now. It started 3 weeks after Miranda Cole arrived in C Block. Every night, 3 a.m. exactly, cell 23. The same sound, for exactly 17 minutes. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Night shifts at Riverside were usually quiet. Most inmates slept through the night. The occasional snore, someone using the toilet, maybe a nightmare causing someone to cry out. Normal sounds, expected sounds, but this was different. It began on a Tuesday. I was doing my 3 a.m. rounds when I heard it. A rhythmic thumping. Not violent, almost gentle, methodical. Thump, thump, thump. Always the same interval, always the same intensity. I stopped outside cell 23, shined my flashlight through the small window. Miranda Cole was sitting on her bunk, completely still, staring at the wall. The thumping continued. I watched for a full minute, trying to identify the source. Miranda didn't move. Her cellmate, an older woman named Ruth, was asleep in the top bunk, undisturbed, but the sound continued. Thump, 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 Cole. I called through the door. Everything okay in there? Miranda slowly turned her head toward me. Her eyes were open but unfocused, like she was sleepwalking. It's time, she said flatly. Time for what? She didn't answer, just turned back to face the wall. The thumping stopped. I checked my watch. 3:17 a.m. Exactly 17 minutes had passed. I wrote it up in my log, but didn't make a big deal of it. Inmates did weird things sometimes, especially new ones adjusting to prison life. The next night, same thing. 3 a.m. 17 minutes of rhythmic thumping from cell 23. This time when I looked in, Miranda was standing, facing the back wall of her cell, not moving, just standing there, while the sound continued around her. Cole, what's making that noise? No response. I unlocked the cell door and stepped inside. Ruth was still asleep. How? I had no idea. The thumping was loud enough to wake anyone. The moment I crossed the threshold, the sound stopped. I looked around the cell. Nothing was out of place. No objects that could make that sound. Miranda was still standing, facing the wall. Miranda, turn around. She did. Her eyes were completely vacant. She looked at me, but didn't seem to see me. What's happening at 3 a.m.? I asked. He needs to know I'm still here, she said in that same flat tone. Who needs to know? Marcus. Who's Marcus? Her eyes suddenly focused. Sharpness replaced the vacant stare. What are you doing in my cell? You don't remember? The thumping sound. She looked genuinely confused. What sound? I left the cell more unsettled than I'd been in 3 years working at Riverside. The pattern continued. Every single night. 3 a.m. to 3:17 a.m. The same rhythmic thumping from cell 23. Other guards started noticing. You hear that weird sound on third tier. Officer Martinez asked me one morning. Cell 23. Yeah, like clockwork. 3 a.m. every night. What the hell is that? I don't know, but it stops the moment you enter the cell. That's creepy as hell. I started researching Miranda Cole's background. 28 years old. No prior record. Convicted of voluntary manslaughter. Sentenced to 12 years. She'd killed someone named Marcus Chen. Her boyfriend. The details were disturbing. According to court records, Miranda had stabbed Marcus 17 times in their apartment. When police arrived, she was sitting next to his body, covered in blood, saying, "He won't stop. He won't stop." 17 times, 17 minutes. I felt cold reading that 2 weeks into the pattern. Things escalated. I was doing rounds when I heard screaming from cell 23, not the thumping, actual screaming. I ran to the cell. Ruth was pressed against the bars, trying to get out. Get me out. Get me out of here, she was shrieking. Miranda was in the corner, eyes closed, rocking back and forth. And the thumping was louder than I'd ever heard it. Aggressive, violent. Thump, thump, thump. I unlocked the door and pulled Ruth out. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face. What happened? She's not alone in there. Ruth sobbed. There's someone else. I saw him. I saw him standing behind her. Ruth, there's no one. I saw him, she screamed. He was standing right behind her, and he was angry. So angry. I looked back into the cell. Miranda was alone, but the thumping continued, and now I could see what I'd missed before, the back wall of the cell, where Miranda always stared. There were marks on it, 17 impact marks, faintly visible in the concrete. The thumping was coming from the wall. Something was hitting it from inside. I requested that Miranda be moved to a different cell. The warden denied it, not enough cause. But he did move Ruth, who refused to ever go back to cell 23. Miranda got a new cellmate, a tough woman named Jasmine, who'd been in prison for 8 years and didn't scare easily. She lasted 3 nights. I don't care where you put me, Jasmine told me on the 4th morning. Solitary, I don't give a damn. But I'm not sleeping in that cell one more night. What happened? That girl ain't right. Every night, 3 a.m., she starts talking to someone who ain't there. And Officer Torres, I swear on everything, something talks back. I can't hear the words, but I can hear the voice. Deep, male, angry. Did you see anything? Jasmine hesitated. The marks on the wall. They're getting worse. Every night, there's more. And last night, she pulled up her sleeve. There were bruises on her arm in the shape of fingers. I woke up and someone was grabbing me. I could feel the hand, but there was nothing there. After that, no one would bunk with Miranda. Cell 23 became a single cell, which meant Miranda was alone with whatever was happening there. I started staying awake during the 3 a.m. hour, watching her cell on the monitors. The cameras couldn't pick up audio, but I could see Miranda's behavior. Every night, the same ritual. She would sit up at exactly 3 a.m., get out of bed, walk to the back wall, and stand there, sometimes with her hands pressed against those marks, sometimes just staring. For 17 minutes, she wouldn't move at a T317. She would walk back to her bunk and lie down. In the morning, she never remembered any of it. I became obsessed with understanding what was happening. I read everything I could about Marcus Chun, about their relationship. According to witnesses, Marcus had been controlling, abusive. He'd isolated Miranda from friends and family, monitored her constantly, tracked her phone, would call her every 17 minutes when they were apart to make sure she was still there. Every 17 minutes, when she finally tried to leave, he attacked her, and she defended herself with a knife. 17 times. The prosecution argued it was excessive, that after the first few stabs, it wasn't self-defense anymore. That's why she got manslaughter instead of acquittal. But reading the details, I understood. She wasn't just fighting him in that moment. She was fighting every instance of control, every threat, every time he'd made her feel trapped. 17 stabs for however many times he called to cage her. And now, in cell 23, at 3 a.m., something was still calling. 1 month into the pattern, I decided to spend the full 17 minutes inside cell 23 with Miranda. I got permission by claiming I was conducting a mental health observation. The warden agreed, probably hoping I'd find a reason to transfer her to psychiatric care. T2:55 a.m., I entered the cell. Miranda was asleep. At exactly 3 a.m., her eyes opened. She sat up, got out of bed, and walked to the wall. I watched her press her palms against those 17 marks. And then I heard it. Not just the thumping. Whispering. Where are you? The voice was male, deep, and it was coming from everywhere and nowhere. Where are you, Miranda? She responded in that flat, sleepwalking voice. I'm here. You can't leave. You know that. I know. You're mine. You'll always be mine. My skin crawled. I wanted to run, but I forced myself to speak. Miranda, who are you talking to? She didn't acknowledge me. Neither did the voice. Even here, even locked away, you're still mine. I'm still yours, she repeated. The thumping grew louder. The wall actually vibrated with each impact. Miranda! I grabbed her shoulder. The moment I touched her, everything stopped. The thumping, the voice, the vibration. Miranda turned to look at me. Her eyes were focused now, aware. Officer Torres. She looked around, confused. Why am I standing here? Why are you in my cell? You don't remember? Remember what? I was asleep. She genuinely had no idea what had been happening, that I left the cell shaking. I'd heard it, the voice. It was real. Something was in that cell, or attached to Miranda, or both. I went to the chaplain the next day. Father Miguel had been at Riverside for 15 years. If anyone understood the darkness that lived in these walls, it was him. Cell 23, he said when I described what was happening. That cell has a history. What kind of history? 10 years ago, an inmate committed suicide in that cell. Hung herself at 3 a.m. When they found her, she'd been dead for approximately 17 minutes. My blood ran cold. What was her name? I don't remember, but I remember what people said. That she'd been in an abusive relationship before prison, that her boyfriend used to call her obsessively, that even after he died in a car accident, she claimed he was still watching her, still controlling her. He died years before she came to prison, but she never escaped him. That's what drove her to suicide. She said he'd followed her even here. I felt sick. Father, what if it's still happening? What if he's still here? Father Miguel looked at me seriously. Then the girl in that cell is in danger, because whatever haunts those walls doesn't let go. I requested an emergency transfer for Miranda, claimed safety concerns, mental health crisis, anything to get her out of cell 23. The warden denied it. Budget constraints, no available cells, standard bureaucratic nonsense. That night, I made a decision. I was going to break Miranda out of the pattern. Somehow, at 2:50 a.m., I went to cell 23. Miranda was asleep. I woke her up. What's wrong? She asked groggy. I need you to stay awake. It's important. Officer Torres, it's the middle of the night. I know. Just trust me. Stay awake until 3:20. Can you do that? She looked confused but nodded. I sat with her. We talked about nothing. Her life before prison. Her family. Anything to keep her conscious and present. 3 a.m. exactly. I felt the temperature drop. Miranda's eyes started to glaze over. Miranda, stay with me. Keep talking. She fought it. I could see her struggling to maintain consciousness. I feel strange, like I'm being pulled. Fight it. Stay here. Stay present. The thumping started, but quieter than usual. Uncertain, the whispering began. Miranda, come here. No, she whispered. Then louder. No, you belong to me. I don't. She was crying now, but she was fighting. You're dead. You're dead. And I'm alive. And you don't own me. The thumping became violent, aggressive. The entire cell shook. You're mine. I'm not. Miranda screamed. She stood up, walked to that wall, and instead of pressing her palms against it like every other night, she raised her fist and punched it. Hard. I killed you. You're gone. You can't have me anymore. She punched the wall again and again. Her knuckles split, blood smearing across those 17 marks. And then silence, complete silence. The temperature returned to normal. The oppressive feeling lifted. Miranda collapsed, and I caught her. She looked at me with clear eyes. He's gone. I can feel it. He's really gone. The thumping never happened again. That I had Miranda's knuckles treated, told medical she'd had a nightmare, and punched the wall. Not exactly a lie. She was transferred to a different cell a week later. Routine rotation, nothing to do with the incident. Before she left cell 23, I asked her what she remembered. All of it, she said quietly. I was always aware, but I couldn't control my body. Every night, he'd take over, make me come to him, make me acknowledge him. Even after I killed him, even in prison, he wouldn't let me go. What changed last night? You believed me. You stayed with me. For the first time in years, I wasn't alone when he came. And that gave me the strength to fight back. She looked at the cell one last time. Do you believe in ghosts, Officer Torres? I don't know what I believe anymore. I do. I believe some people refuse to die. Their hate keeps them alive. Marcus couldn't accept that I'd escaped him. So he followed me here, haunted me every night at the exact time I killed him. Why 17 minutes? Because that's how long it took him to die. 17 stab wounds, 17 minutes bleeding out. And every night he made me relive it, made me remember that even though I freed my body from him, he still owned my mind. But not anymore. She smiled. It was the first time I'd seen her smile. Not anymore. I'm finally free. Miranda served 8 years and was released on parole. Last I heard, she was doing well, working as a counselor for domestic violence survivors. Cell 23 is empty now. After Miranda left, we tried housing other inmates there, but everyone reported nightmares. Feeling watched, that oppressive presence, it sits vacant. A reminder that some prisons exist beyond walls and bars, and some sentences extend beyond death. I learned something important from Miranda and Cell 23, that trauma doesn't end when the abuser dies. That control can persist as haunting. That sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is fight ghosts no one else can see. Every night at 3 a.m., I still think about that cell, about the sound, about Marcus Chen, whose hatred was so strong it transcended death. But I also think about Miranda, about how she finally broke free, because that's the real story, not the haunting, the liberation.